actually record, because that would be helpful. And the only people featured in the recording will be me and my colleague Emily, who will introduce herself in a moment. So we wanted to reassure you, perhaps you might be disappointed, but we can't see you and we can't hear you. And we'd love to get your reflections, questions, and insights as we go along. So please do use the chat function to do that. And when you do that, you've got a couple of options. You can choose to share your reflections, questions with just me and Emily. So then you just choose the panel. I think it's the panelists, or you can choose to share with panelists and attendees, and that means everyone will see it. But just be assured when Emily reads out your contribution, she won't mention your name. So it truly does remain anonymous for the purposes of the recording. If you do happen to get kicked out by a glitch in the tech, please do rejoin us using the same link. And please also know that subtitles should be an option on your screen, live subtitles, if that would be useful for you. So here we go. So thanks so much for joining us. Our topic, as I say, is noticing. And noticing is a core element of well-being. And we know your own well-being can slip way down your to-do lists. So we're really grateful you've made the time to join us. We think we've got some skills and insights to share with you that might be useful. And we're really grateful for everything that you do and have been doing for the last months / years. So let's dive in. So as I say, our topic is noticing and connecting to the present moment. And we're going to kind of unpick that a bit as we go along and give you some direct experiences of exercises that can help improve or enhance our skill in noticing. Because here's one of my heroes in psychology, a chap called Abraham Maslow, him of the hierarchy of needs. You may have heard of him. But he said the ability to be in the present moment is a major component of mental wellness. And crikey, ain't that the truth? He really hit the nail on the head there, because we can spend a lot of our waking hours mind wandering. So before I go on, let me introduce myself. So that's me on the left. And my name is Ross McIntosh. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I specialize in cultivating psychological well-being and behavioral flexibility in adults in the workplace and adults in their whole lives. So that's what my passion is, bringing evidence-based behavioral science to adults. And I work with a variety of populations, including lots in the NHS. I work a lot with various NHS trusts. I work with teachers, particularly teachers in the Bristol area, civil servants, and loads of other organizations. And the most unusual population I work with are ballet dancers. And just to throw in where these workshops came from, early in the year, we ran some wellbeing workshops for teachers, and they were well received. So we thought, let's expand them to include parents as well for the next round. So that's why we're here. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm an assistant educational psychologist with Bristol City Council, and my work has been focusing lately quite a lot on wellbeing, on children, young people wellbeing and staff wellbeing, and I've worked with worked on a couple of these webinars with Ross, so it's really great to have everyone here joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you. And Emily's worked on more than a couple, I'd like to say, and extend my thanks to Emily and the whole educational psychology team at Bristol. So to ease us into the subject, I'd like to ask you a question. And the question is this, and it will, fingers crossed, appear as a poll as well. The question is, how much do you agree with this statement? I find it easy to stay focused on what's happening in the present moment, where 1 is you don't agree at all, and 10 is you wholeheartedly agree. So if you wouldn't mind, this is completely anonymous. So if you wouldn't mind just reflecting a bit on that and just choosing one of those numbers to reflect how much you agree with that statement. We'll just give that a few moments. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to select that, and now, as if by magic, we should see some results. Okay, and we can see a peak there at 4. So, and some people are saying lower than a 4, so 20% of you are saying a 2 or a 3, and there's some a bit higher up. The maximum is around 7. So it's not always easy to stay focused on what's happening in the present moment, because our minds are inclined to wander. And that mind wandering is normal. It's something that happens to us all. We're not broken, we don't need fixing, but we can cultivate skills to help us bring our minds back, our wandering minds back to the present moment. So I just thought I'd follow up on that question with something for you to reflect on, and perhaps, if you're willing, type in the chat box. So let's do the top bullet point first. Can you think of an example of something you do in your life on autopilot? And by autopilot, what I mean is something where your body is in one place, because your body's always in the present moment, but your mind is off somewhere else, thinking about something else entirely. So let's do the top one first. Something you do in life on autopilot. Anyone willing to share? Just to immerse us further in this topic.
Someone shared driving.
Driving, interesting. Isn't that interesting? I wonder if anyone else out there has driving. I can certainly drive on autopilot myself. And you think you're operating a bit of highly complex machinery. And to do that on autopilot is very, very skilled. Anything else out there, Emily?
Eating breakfast, hanging out the washing, walking.
Lovely.
Yeah, driving.
So, eating breakfast, hanging out the washing, driving again. Love it.
Mm-hmm. I've got one. We've the light bulb in our bathroom has actually gone at the moment, but every time I go in, I still pull the cord when I go in and out, just because I'm used to doing it.
I love it. And then you go kind of do.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But for those of you who were driving, do you remember when you first sat behind the wheel of a car and you had the wheel, pedals, levers, mirrors, other road users? Crikey, how am I ever going to do this? And now you can drive to Tesco's or other supermarket and not notice anything on the route. So just interesting to notice that sometimes autopilot can be quite useful. Without autopilot, we wouldn't have great creativity, music, art, dance, all sorts of stuff. But sometimes that autopilot overreaches itself. So let's think of the second bullet. Any examples you could share with me, folks, of something you do in your life with more awareness? If you're willing to share something where you're really in that moment and focused. If you wouldn't mind typing it in the chat, just to give us any insights.
Something for me is like, you can often sometimes be listening to people in your family a bit on autopilot, but actually then sometimes I'll be like, actually, I really need to pay attention here and really listen.
That's a beautiful example of switching between the two modes, isn't it? Because I'm the same. I speak to my dad every day, and sometimes my mind wanders off, and then sometimes I think, no, that's not who I want to be in this relationship.
Yeah, and similarly, someone's put in the chat conversations with my 8-year-old son. Someone's put writing, photography, and cooking.
Right.
We've got climbing, and someone's put part of their work is to answer phone calls for IT support, so they really need to listen in those calls.
You need to understand what the person calling, what their trouble is, and they might not have the words to express it, so you need to be in that moment. I love it with your 8-year-old child, yet being there with them, cooking, climbing, all sorts of examples. Wonderful stuff.
Yep, listening to my daughter read and doing presentations for work, talking at dinner time, drawing with kids. So it's often when we're doing something with someone else, perhaps, that people are.
So I think becoming aware of these two modes of our mind, the autopilot and the more awareness, is something really useful. for us as humans, because I've got a bit of research I wanted to share with you, which is this. And it was research done at Harvard, and they looked at people's mind wandering. So let me just, before I go on to that, let me just present to you what we'll cover for the rest of this session. Getting overexcited and ahead of myself. So I'll be convincing you, hopefully, why it's useful to connect with the present moment and ways to connect, practical ways to connect to the present moment and build that skill. So here's the research. Why is it useful? Because, and this is taken directly from this research paper by Killingsworth and Gilbert from Harvard. And what these chaps did is they developed a smartphone technology to sample people's ongoing thoughts, feelings, and actions. And they found two things. This is taken directly from the abstract of the paper, that people are thinking about what is not happening almost as often as they are thinking about what is happening. And doing so typically makes them unhappy. So for me, that's not the clearest way to present it, but it might have hooked some of you already. But let me present it to you in a different way. So we can spend nigh enough 47% of our waking hours thinking about something other than what we're doing. That's almost half of our waking hours where our mind is wandering. Our mind is not focused on the task at hand, it's off somewhere else. Sometimes that can be useful, but a lot of the time, that mind wandering can make us unhappy. Remember that quote from Abraham Maslow. This ability to step into the present moment when it would be useful for us is fundamental to our psychological health. So, stepping in, notice the language I use, stepping into the present moment. It's a choice we can make, it's a skill we can build. But what I want to do is just hopefully share with you different ways we can build that skill and give you an experience of a couple of those as well. So to act as another layer to my argument to you, if you like, about why it might be useful to develop this skill to step into the present moment, I always like to think, well, so what? What are the real goodies for me? Well, the research that says that paying attention in the present moment can help us on a variety of fronts, can help us be more resilient during times of stress, can help us focus our attention on one thing at a time, rather than our minds being all over the shop, can help us have a more compassionate attitude to others and ourselves. It can have the physiological effect on our bodies as well, decrease inflammation and improve our health, and improve those indicators, those longevity markers, those markers that from years and years of research indicate how long we might live. So they can improve those markers of longevity. So that sounds pretty cool, all of that. Paying attention in the present moment can help us do all that. And if that's not enough, I've got some other stuff. Because I'd suggest to you that we can enhance our noticing, because we don't always notice what's going on around us. We can live quite a lot inside our heads. And inside our heads is our inner world. It's not the actual reality, but sometimes we treat it as if it's the reality of what's going on. We can get more of a handle of what our minds are producing, because our minds are producing loads of content all the time. And we can also think about and notice how we're showing up in the world. How are we showing up and impacting on other people? And how are we impacting on ourselves as well? So this is me having a go at building an argument why it might be useful to develop this skill to step into the present moment. And I think I've done quite a bit of talking there. So I want to give you an experience of an exercise. I want to invite you to join me in an exercise, if you will. And this exercise is designed to illustrate the difference between our inner world, the stuff that's generated in our mind, and what it's like to experience things with our 5 senses. So this is an invitation. This is a genuine invitation. If you want to have a go at this exercise, please do join me. If you just prefer to sit back and just notice what's going on, then please do so. I'll just pause there. Any queries or questions so far, Emily?
Yeah, someone's asked, how would this work, or how does this work with multitasking?
Yes, great question. Because we quite often talk about multitasking. Sometimes we might prescribe a gender difference to it. I'm not sure, honestly, I'm not sure on the research on the difference in genders. I know people tend to say, or people in my life tend to say that women are more equipped to multitask than men. I'm not sure if there's any evidence to support that. But what I'd say is enabling ourselves to focus on one thing at a time, even when it's for a short period, can be enhanced by developing these skills in present moment awareness. So I think research is showing that we can't focus on too many things at once, but sometimes our minds might be, it's like having so many tabs open on your computer. It's impossible. Our minds are just bouncing from one to the other. So narrowing that down and enabling us to focus on one thing at a time is a really useful thing to have and helps us focus our attention. So thank you. Okay, so let me share with you the exercise. It's called the pen. And this is designed to help us explore our inner world and our outer world. So if you want to have a go, it's quite a playful exercise, I think. So what you need here is a pen, like that, or like however your pen is where you are, or a pencil, or a small object, preferably not an animal or a child, anything that's near you and that you could explore with your 5 senses. So that's the first part of the exercise. I'm going to invite you to explore your object with your 5 senses. So let's start with the sense of sight, seeing. So just begin to have a look at your object. Maybe hold it up to the light, see how it catches the light from its different surfaces or facets. Maybe notice how much ink is in it, whether it has writing on it, the different materials that make up your object. Have a look at it from weird angles, if you will, angles you might not usually look at it from. Bring curiosity to your object, that you've never seen the like of it before, although it's an everyday thing. Maybe look down the point of it. Okay, next we'll try touch. So just putting it between your fingertips and noticing how it feels. Maybe feeling any differences in texture, the smooth. Is there any part of your pen or pencil or object that's embossed? What's the point like? Is there anything moving? Is there a moving part at all? Is there anything that retracts or clicks or clip? And if you put it in the palm of your hand, how would you describe the weight of your pen? Is it heavy? Is it light? Can you barely notice it's there? Okay, got 3 senses left. And depending on whether you know where your object or your pen has been, you might not want to do all of these. But have a sniff of it, if you're willing. Have a sniff. Is there any information you can pick up about your object by having a sniff? Unsurprisingly, mine smells of hand sanitizer. This is my pen, and I know where it's been. But you may have a different smell. You may be able to pick up ink or anything else. What about listening? You might have a pen with a clip, but just tap it near your ear. Just tap your pen near your ear. Notice the quality of that sound. If your pen has a click, then give it a click. Notice that noise with curiosity. And then finally, again, Only if you know where your object has been, have a taste of your pen. Anything to notice about the flavor of that or in your mouth? So what we're doing is we're exploring this real object using our 5 senses in the real world. And just to finish off this part of the exercise, I'd invite you to write down a word on a piece of paper, any word that comes into your mind. There we have it. So that's part 1 of the exercise. There is a very, very valid point to this, no pun intended, to this exercise. So let's do the next bit. If you just put your object out of sight now so you can't see it. And if you're willing, you could just allow your eyes to close for this bit, depending on where you are, whether that's comfortable for you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is imagine your pen or pencil or object. Imagine that in your mind's eye, kind of floating in front of you. How does it look? What different textures and materials have been used to create that object? Noticing how it catches the light, perhaps. Any writing on it. If you could see, you may not have been able to see, but how full, how much ink was there left in your pen? How did it look from those unusual angles when you brought real curiosity to that? Can you recreate that in your mind's eye? Now just have a go at imagining how it felt in your fingertips. How did it feel? Could you feel angles and curves or straight lines? What could you feel? Was the texture of the material your pen is made with, was it hard or soft? Warm or cold in your fingertips? And when it was resting in your palm, was it heavy, or would you describe it as light? Next thing we did was we had a bit of a sniff. So see if you can recall the smell of your pen. Any particular smell? Did that take you anywhere, that smell? How would you describe that smell to someone who'd never seen a pen before? What about having a listen to it? What was that like? What did that sound like to you? Could you recreate that noise? Was it like a dink, or was it like a ting? How was it? And then finally, for those of you who had a go, what did it taste like? Was there anything to learn about this object from its taste? And then just before you finish, imagine taking your imaginary pen and writing down another different word on an imaginary piece of paper. Okay. So if you come back, if you've been having a go at that, come back and join me and Emily. And I'm curious, quite an unusual exercise perhaps, but what was that like for you? Did that reveal anything to you? Anything you noticed differently about exploring an object with your 5 senses rather than imagining it? Was it easy to imagine it, or was it difficult? Anything that you noticed, if you wouldn't mind typing in the chat, that would be great. Anything you noticed at all?
Yeah, I was going to say I found it quite hard to sort of keep focused on it because it wasn't, I don't know, kept wanting to think about other things. So
your mind was
yeah,
away a bit.
Someone else has shared, I noticed a lot more about it than I normally would, just using it in an everyday way.
Nice. So bringing our curiosity to it, we can notice features that, because probably it's such a familiar object to us, we don't bother noticing. Lovely, thank you very much. I guess it's unusual to bring our curiosity to an object in such a way. But it's a great way to connect with that present moment. It's a great way to just notice and reconnect with now.
Somebody shared that it's made them realise that they like doing things with their hands, and the word they wrote down was peace. Whereas imagining the pen felt hard, and the word I wrote mentally down was exhausting.
Right. Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing all of that. So you noticed a preference for using your hands and the difference between the words. The interesting thing about the words for me is that you can all see, if I show you what I wrote down on my piece of paper, I wrote down the word brick there. But you can't see the word I wrote down on my virtual piece of paper. And one of the important points from this is that sometimes that world inside our head that we create based on our experience, sometimes we treat that as real. Sometimes we treat that as reality and act according to it. We think that inner world is worthy of our full attention, and we might be missing out on stuff that's happening in the real world out there that we could experience with our 5 senses.
Someone else shared, my brain quieted a bit as I was trying to keep focused on what I was doing, and the word they wrote down was clear.
Great, great. Thank you so much for sharing, folks, because as I say, this exercise has a number of layers to it, and it's to get us exploring a familiar object with a curiosity that we might not normally bring to it. And how many moments do we miss in our lives? Sometimes it's okay to miss them, but for instance, sometimes our relationship with food, sometimes we can sit and sometimes me and my hubby, we sit and watch TV while we eat. And I'm not really noticing anything about the food that I'm shoveling in there. The textures, the flavors, I'm not savoring that. My mind is elsewhere. And it's good to just pause and maybe eat more with more attention on those flavors and textures and enjoyment, perhaps. Okay. So let's start exploring really practical ways that you can cultivate this skill. You can enhance this skill to step into the present moment. And we've just had a go at one of them, noticing the world around us with our 5 senses. This is an amazing way to check in with the present moment. Let me give you a couple of examples. So it could be you're out walking in nature. Can you pause and maybe notice the different colors of the trees or the flowers? Can you pause and maybe hear the bird song? Can you feel the sun on your skin or the rain running down your neck? It's a really rich sensory experience when we're out in nature. But so can the experience of showering or bathing. If we are, I don't know about you, but quite often in the morning when I'm having my shower, my mind can already be at work thinking, what are all these things I have to do? So I'm just going to lean over and turn my plug on. I realized it's not, my laptop wasn't charging. So yeah, in the morning shower, there's a rich sensory experience. There's a temperature, there's the noise, there's the smell of the soap. And I'm missing out on all of that if my mind's already at work thinking, oh, crikey, I need to call Glenn, I need to make that meeting with Louise, etc., etc. So by just bringing our mind to what's going on around us, it's a great way to strengthen our mental muscle. Let me give you another example from my day, making a cup of tea. I normally have coffee in the morning and then switch to tea and have multiple cups. And there's another sensory experience there, the kettle boiling, the noise, the sound as you fill up a cup, the warmth of the water as you hold your mug, maybe the smell of the tea, opening the fridge. There's all sorts of experience to notice that can really just help us connect with that present moment. So don't underestimate this as a way just to gently begin to develop this skill further in ourselves, because we're not adding anything else to your daily life. This is stuff you were doing anyway, but you might be doing it on autopilot. So doing those typical tasks that we might tend to do without much awareness, bringing more awareness to it, can really build that skill. And we can take that a step further. You may have heard of this technique. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is great for grounding us. It's great if we're feeling particularly anxious. And it's basically just using our 5 senses in a more systematic way. So if I felt like I was getting kind of out of control or overly tied up in anxiety, perhaps in my day, I just kind of press pause if I can. Acknowledge 5 things I can see around me, maybe in the room, or if there's windows in the room, beyond the room. Acknowledge 4 things you can touch. It could be your hair, a pillow, the ground, a desk, a laptop, all sorts of stuff, a pen. Then acknowledging 3 things you can hear. Could be sounds external to you. Preferably focus on things outside the body, or you might hear your tummy rumbling, I guess. And 2 things you can smell. Maybe you're in an office. I'm in a kind of booth, in a co-working space. I can smell some antibacterial cleaner, which has just been used to clean the desk here. I can smell that. Maybe you can smell fresh air or washing, drying, or whatever. And then acknowledging 1 thing you can taste. Maybe you can taste gum or tea or coffee or the pen or the sandwich you've just eaten. So this is a great way, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's quite a well-known technique, but it's a great way to ground ourselves and bring ourselves back to the present moment. So you might like to have a go at that. Any reflections there?
Asked, oh, sorry, hopefully my internet is okay. Someone's asked, is this to help your mind to reconnect with your body?
Yeah, it can certainly do that, yes. But less than body, this particular exercise, less than the body, it's connecting with what's going on around you with your 5 senses. I've got an exercise a bit later on, which is more about connecting with the body. So this one's more about using our 5 senses to notice what's going on around us, because we can be stuck in our head. And if you're anything like me, stuck in my catastrophizing mind, that can take me to various disaster scenarios in my life. So that's another kind of neat little exercise, I think. It's particularly good for anxiety, but also good just for grounding ourselves. Maybe if you've got an important event or occasion, just doing this beforehand can really help us connect with now. Great. Okay. So I've got some more techniques and skills to share with you folks. So let me go on to the next one. This is a really interesting one. We call beginner's mind. You know how we explored that pen or object? We were really bringing beginner's mind to that, treating that pen as if it's something we'd never seen the like of before, bringing our full curiosity to it. And we can do the same with activities or interactions with people. Maybe we have a particular person in our life and we always think, oh no, they're coming to have a, I can see them flashing up on my phone, or they're coming to speak to me. And we have a preconceived idea of how they're going to be. Maybe we could just approach that conversation or that interaction with beginner's mind. Think about what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, really connecting with that listening, that feeling. You're paying attention to things without preconceptions, and it could be a person, it could be going to the supermarket, What would it be like to go to the supermarket with beginner's mind? What would it be like? Any number of tasks or activities in life. It's a great way to experience things afresh and notice new things, perhaps. They say it's like wiping off a dirty windscreen or windshield. You perhaps see things that you're missing in real time, as opposed to imagining how your mind has predetermined them to be. So it's a great little thing to have in your back pocket, if you like, to thinking maybe it's something you're not looking forward to, or thinking you need a bit of oomph, or you want to be a particular way, but you're just feeling like exhausted. Bringing beginner's mind to it can help change your relationship with that experience. And these techniques are all based in evidence and really rigorous clinical evidence. So beginner's mind is something you might want to try. And then there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, a way to cultivate this sense of connecting with the present moment, a way to cultivate noticing our inner world and the world around us. And that's mindfulness. Now, probably quite a few of you out there will have heard of mindfulness. And I think it's almost become a bit damaged by its own popularity. It's so popular, and there's so many people sharing versions of mindfulness out there that it can get a bit clouded by what the intention is. So I thought we'd pause and just talk about mindfulness for a bit, and also give you an experience of an exercise if you wanted to have a go. So one of my jobs in life is I'm a researcher at City University of London, and we particularly interested in mindfulness there. So I thought I'd share with you how I would describe mindfulness to adults. And this is how I'd present it. I'd say it's a form of mental training. We might take physical exercise, from light stretching to running a marathon or anything in between, to look after our bodies, our skeletons, our muscles. But we don't always afford the same attention or activity to our minds. So mindfulness could be considered to be a form of mental training. Mindfulness is like waking up from autopilot. It's that, crikey. That research that you mentioned, Ross, has really made me think about how much of my life I do spend on autopilot. So I want to wake up sometimes from autopilot and notice what's going on around me. Or it's a way of gathering the scattered mind. You know, when your mind's all over the place. My mind can be all over the shop, and then once I go down one rabbit hole, I go deeper and deeper and deeper, until I'm miles away from what I wanted to focus on. So it can be a great way to start to train us to focus that and gather that scattered mind. So rather than me bang on about it anymore, I thought, why not give you an experience of a mindfulness exercise? So, excuse me, some of you may be more familiar with this than others. So my invitation to you is this. I'm going to guide you through a meditation where we'll explore the body and the breath. And it will take, excuse me, it will take between 7 and 8 minutes. And I just want to invite you to have a go. If you feel like, oh, this isn't for me, then please feel free to sit it out and just let your mind wander. But if you want to have a go, just follow as best you can my voice and my guidance. And if at any point you feel uncomfortable or feel like this is too unpleasant, then just step out of the exercise and open your eyes and let the light back in. So here we go. Let's have a go at a little exercise. So first of all, let's adopt a posture. And the posture we talk about is adopting a dignified posture. So your feet flat on the ground, your legs about a hip's width apart. Your back is as upright as is comfortable for your own back. And your head upright, imagine there's a thread just coming out the top of your head, holding it erect. And just beginning to notice the body. And imagining that your attention is like a spotlight. It's like a torch or a spotlight directed onto your body. And just take that spotlight down the body. Take it right down, down until you reach the feet. The left foot and the right foot. And just bringing all your curiosity to the feet right now. Maybe there's a particular temperature. Maybe there's an itch or an ache. Maybe there's nothing. We're not looking to create anything. We're just looking to notice what's there right now in this moment. And if you're anything like me, you may find your mind's wandered off. And if you do notice that, just know that that's entirely normal. There's nothing wrong. You're not broken. There's nothing needs fixing. Just see if you can notice where your mind went, and then gently bring the attention back to the body and the feet. We're currently just exploring the feet with our curiosity. And on the next in-breath, expanding that spotlight of attention to take in the legs up to the knees, then continuing up to the pelvis. Perhaps noticing the points where you're in contact with the chair, the backs of your legs or your lower back. Maybe noticing the sensation of clothing against your skin. And then on the next in-breath, expanding that spotlight of attention to take in the chest and the back, up to the shoulders, and letting the attention spill down each arm, the left arm and the right arm. Right down to the fingertips, noticing that any sensations at the fingertips, whether it might be a tingling, a sensation of the temperature, or feeling the air around your hands, feeling that quality of the air. And on the next in-breath, expanding that spotlight of attention once more to take in the muscles of the neck. Maybe noticing any tension there. Not looking to judge that tension or fix it, just looking to notice it. Taking in the muscles of the scalp and the forehead, around the eyes and the nose and the jaw and the mouth. Noticing the expression on your face. And now as we do our best, just to try and hold the whole body in our attention in this moment. And now just letting that focus on the body just dissolve into the background and bringing that spotlight, focusing it back in onto the tummy, just onto the tummy, and that inward and outward movement with each breath. Noticing the rise and fall of the tummy. If you want, you can actually put your hand on the tummy just to see how that feels. And you may notice your mind's gone off again, if it's anything like mine. And there's no need to be alarmed or frustrated or judgmental about ourselves, because that's just what minds do. And if you do notice your mind's gone off somewhere, see if you can notice where it went and gently bring it back to the tummy and that inward and outward movement with each breath. Not looking to change the way we breathe at all, just letting the breath breathe itself. knowing that this breath is there as an anchor for us always, bringing us to now. And I'm just going to leave a pause now for us to practice this in silence. There's spotlight on our tummy and the inward and outward movement. And if you do notice your mind's gone off, just bring it gently back. So let's just spend a few moments just practicing that in silence. Okay. So folks, I'm going to start to bring this exercise to a close. So maybe just begin by refocusing your eyes or opening your eyes if you've had them closed and letting the light back in. Maybe stretching your body a bit, giving your shoulders a bit of a roll, your hands a wiggle, your feet a wiggle. Getting up and stretching if you want. However you want, and have a look around the room you're in just to reacquaint yourself with that. Just wondering, any reflections on that exercise? Anything you'd be willing to share? Let's do a little bit of a mini debrief of that. Anything anyone's willing to share about that as a direct experience? Because I can tell you what people sometimes say. Sometimes people say they found it relaxing. And I'll take that as an outcome, and also just want to let you know that if you do practice this more and more, it might not always feel that relaxing. You might notice uncomfortable sensations in the body or difficult thoughts in the mind. But any reflections out there, Emily?
Yeah, someone's put very relaxing, really needed it.
Wow.
And someone's put that they feel quite tired and so they could have fallen asleep. Someone else saying very relaxing, almost too relaxing, can feel a bit sleepy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, folks. And like I say, that relaxing, I'm delighted to have brought a bit of relaxation to your day. And it's a great you can do shorter exercises than this, and there's links to lots of resources in the slide pack for this. And the other thing people sometimes say to me is, oh, my mind wandered a lot. That was only a few minutes, but my mind kept going off. And sometimes I noticed and I brought it back. And I say, well, heck, that's a great practice. Because I know that some people say, oh, I'm rubbish at this because my mind wandered a lot. But if you've noticed that and you've brought it back, you've noticed it, you've brought it back. It's like going to the gym. Say I'm going to the gym, which I don't, and I'm lifting up a weight with this hand, okay? And I'm doing this. The more I do this, I believe they're called reps. The more I do these reps, the bigger this gun gets, the stronger this muscle gets, right? And if we're doing mindfulness and our mind wanders, we bring it back. Our mind wanders, we bring it back. Our mind wanders, we bring it back. Then we're strengthening our mental muscle. So it's a great practice. Any other reflections out there, Emily?
That was,
That,
yeah, sort of captured it, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't talk about the sleep one. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people use these exercises to help them sleep, and that can be great. But if you think, oh, actually, sleep is not my intention, you can always just open your eyes. Because quite often I can find myself kind of on the cusp of sleep, you know, when you kind of do that sort of jerking awake, like, oh, normally happens to me on a train. But yeah, you can always just open your eyes and refocus on what's around you. But it's a great way just to reset. Just gives ourselves a bit of peace in the day, perhaps, or at the beginning of the day.
Someone made the observation that we put the time aside today, but perhaps probably wouldn't find time otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I put some resources for you to maybe have a go at practicing a guided meditation, but also know that you can use other ways to practice, like I talked about being in the shower or making a cup of tea. That's something you probably be doing anyway in your life. And that's also a great way to build these skills. But you might like to experiment with doing a brief practice, a guided meditation, explore it a bit. There's some good apps out there. I've talked about some of them in the resources. Headspace is a great one. There's one called Calm. There's one called Buddhify, one called Waking Up. So there's quite a few out there that are really good and have quite short exercises if you feel that might be of interest to you. So let's have a look. Let's have a debrief. So we're looking in that exercise to cultivate the skill of noticing. As a curious observer, we're looking to notice what's going on inside our minds and also in our bodies without judgment. And it takes practice. It's not something that you do once and then you've kind of nailed it. So folks, I'm going to try and bring everything together. So I've tried to build a case for you of why this might be useful to build this skill in noticing. And we've looked at different ways to connect to the present moment and build a skill. And they are bringing awareness to autopilot activities using our 5 senses. And remember the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. Adopting a beginner's mind for anything in life. And having a go at a guided meditation or a mindfulness exercise. So I've got some resources to share with you in a moment, and also a quote that I wanted to finish on. But before then, I wonder if I could invite you, if you're willing, to share with us some feedback on how you found this webinar today. So as if by magic, fingers crossed, in the chat, you should find a link appears to a little questionnaire. And if you're willing, it'd be great if you could go to that and share your thoughts with us. And I'll just remain silent for a moment in case you are willing to do that and have a go at that.
I'm so sorry, folks. I managed to share the wrong one. I think I shared the right one now.
Oh, sorry about that, folks.
But if you have time to do it, fantastic. If not, that's absolutely fine.
We can still work out which ones are relating to this webinar, probably. Thanks, folks.
Yes.
So I promised you some resources. Let's have a look at those. So you can find some resources from Finding Peace in a Frantic World. Is a great book, and there's some meditation tracks there. As I mentioned, there's apps such as Headspace, Calm, Buddhify, and Waking Up. And there's some free meditations there for both adults and children. There's a body and breath exercise from me, very much like the one we've just done. And there's a 2-minute video on why mindfulness is a superpower, which I think is done really well. And a few book recommendations there too. So if you're interested and want to explore further, there's some resources for you. And I wanted to finish with a quote, if I may. And this quote, I think it speaks to us as humans, and whenever we're learning something new or developing something new or just noticing what's going on around us. And it's from a chap called Tim Galway, who's really influential in the coaching world. And he said, when we plant a rose seed in the earth, we notice that it is small, but we do not criticize it as rootless and stemless. We treat it as a seed, giving it the water and nourishment required of a seed. And then the quote goes on. When it first shoots up out of the earth, we don't condemn it as immature and underdeveloped, nor do we criticize the buds for not being open when they appear. We stand in wonder at the process taking place and give the plant the care it needs at each stage of its development. The rose is a rose from the time it is a seed to the time it dies. Within it, at all times, it contains its potential. It seems to be constantly in the process of change, yet at each state, at each moment, it is perfectly all right as it is. And I just love that quote for expressing how we can be quite critical of ourselves sometimes if we're learning something new or anything in life, really. So I'm going to draw it to a close there. There's also my contact details if you wanted to get in touch with me there. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us, folks. We hope you found that useful. Sorry about the glitch with the feedback form. If you did want to send us separate feedback, please do use the email. Or what we'll do, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put the link to the feedback form in the email you'll get with the link to this recording and the slides. How about that? So thank you for your understanding on that. And I'd like to thank you all for attending. I'd like to thank Emily for being a wonderful co-host. And yeah, hope you find it useful, folks. And I wish you all the best for the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. Thanks very much, folks.